Grand Rising, and forgive me if you guys are hearing highway background. It's one of the things that I get when being a truck driver. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna hear the highway background. Okay, but I said I was gonna take the time to do this video, and it's a awareness video. Okay, it's a awareness video. Okay, and this it's about a young man, Amari, from he's born. I mean, I guess he's from Toronto, Canada. But he's a former carbonation, he's part of a cult called Carbonation. And I said to myself, I said, this is he was unalived, and this story is broken yesterday, and there were many of the people who have been following, um, who's been covering the Nature Boy cult leader for years, and I also did some. I also done some covering of it and following of it, but it's an awareness video, and you guys just give me a minute, and we're gonna talk about this and how this can affect your own children about following certain people online. Okay, so just give me 1 second. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And for those who catch the replay, because I know it's early in the morning, wherever you're at, peace and blessings, grand rising. For those who are getting up in the morning, getting ready to go to work, for those who are going to school, grand rising, whoever's, whatever what's happening on your job, whatever. But yes, this is Chief Peanut Nola 504, and I had stated that I was going to cover just a little bit what I know of Loyal, who passed away. He was very loyal to a cult leader, Nature Boy, Eligio Bishop, and I covered it. I went back with this story years ago, and I followed so many great content creators who have been who have been doing a fantastic job on covering the Nature Boy, cult leader for all these years. Shout out to Michael. I see you, Michael. Um, this live is strictly about awareness. It's strictly about awareness. It's strictly about how young people, the things that we see on the internet, and people that we look up to, people that we look up to and we take a liking to. And there's many people that we admire. I admire so a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? And you just got to be careful on who you are looking to be your savior. Your savior should be yourself, not some man. Your savior should be yourself, not a man. And one of the reasons why I'm doing this, because and this is why I took the second day to let all the other people who've been covering this cult leader even before me to get their shine on, because I'm not about the views. I'm about awareness. And everybody knows that I do my own thing with the Aborigine content. Okay. But this young man, Amari, he was I'm assuming he's from Toronto, Canada. And the young man is he's a Pakistani slash in India. Okay. And he came to the cult leader, Nature Boy, to find his Messiah, to find himself spiritually. And many times or there's young people out here that are finding themselves spiritually. They're trying to spiritually find themselves. And sometimes you can spiritually find yourself into demonic entities that can actually attack you. And they attack you like a leech because you are vulnerable at a certain age. Young people minds are not developed at a certain age. Oh, son in the house. Young people minds are not developed at a certain age. So it's easy for older adults to manipulate them. It's easy for them to look up to a person like they're a father figure, big brother. And there's some people who take advantage of young people's innocence. Rather it's sexually, rather it's taking charge on them in mentally challenged ways. I want people to understand this. Now, this young man came down like many others, to find the truth, their true self. And he came to learn from a guy who he thought was the Messiah, who he thought was his big chief. Nature Boy have always polluted these young people. Eligio Bishop right now is locked up right now in prison right now in Atlanta, Georgia, right now. A false prophet who has led so many young souls. And I call him the soul taker. He has led so many young people in the wrong direction. There were so many people who have went up to carbonation, and there was even an elderly woman. So not only did a young person go, many young people go up there being manipulated, even an elder woman, and she passed away in the hands of carbonation. I want people to understand that this man has led many of these young people who were dealing with mental illness. He would take them out of their money. He would manipulate them, take their credit, their identity. And this young man was a loyal servant of Eligio Bishop, to the point where he was competing with the wives of carbonation. He wanted Nature Boy to love him and be proud of him, that he competed even with the wives. And Nature Boy, no matter what, was so disrespectful to this young man. Young man came to carbonation to around 20 years old. I think 20, 19 years old. He was very young. And he was just unalived in Toronto, Canada, where somebody beat him and set the home on fire, burnt him alive. Young man was burnt alive. So when I say soul taker, you can be the demonic entity can be locked up in jail and you can still be controlled. You can still be controlled by entities, by demonic entities, even though the demon is locked up. Because mentally, when you're mentally messed up, and I want people to understand this, Danielle in a house, when you mentally messed up, you will still be consumed unless you get professional help. And there's a lot of these cult members who have still not gotten professional help. You see Velvet, she can't stay off the internet. You see Solar, can't stay off the internet. These young people need professional help. And this young man even though he was not under Nature Boy anymore. He still didn't heal. And he's trapped, his soul is trapped within that entity. You have to talk to your young people, not run your young people away, because you got to watch what you're running them to. Everybody don't love your children the way you love your children. Many times that we have this old saying, even in our communities, in the so-called black communities, we have a thing that we put our children out when they 17 years old. We believe that they are a man and that they are a woman, but truly in their head, they're not developed. Our young people are not fully developed at 20 years old. They're not developed at 21 years old, and they're not developed at 22 years old. But we have a history of putting our people and our young people and getting them out the nest and telling them to make a life of themselves. And this is what happens when you have these cult leaders. If you don't want your children, they definitely want your children. Shout out to Roselle. If you don't want your children, the entity wants your children. And I want people to understand that they are people with open arms waiting to take their soul. And we seem, and at 15 years old, you definitely was done wrong, sweetheart. There's no way in the world at 15 years old you should have been running the streets. And I commend you for the woman that you have become. I commend your strength. I commend everything about you, but you did nothing wrong. There was nothing that you could have done to be put out at 15 years old. Don't ever put that guilt on you. Parents, your children did not ask to come here. You made your bed, you lie in it. Many folks don't want to take accountability on the things. Many folks, many parents, you know what they do? They blame their children. I didn't have a life because of you. I didn't have anything because of you. But you know what? Nobody told you to lay in that bed. Because your children didn't ask to come here because your ass was fast. And then now you want to be that one to sit there and blame your children. And many people do this. And then they blame, and then many of these mothers who will compete with their daughters, and many of their fathers competing with their sons. Your children should always be able to turn to you. It's not a time in your life where your children should not be able to call mother or call father and say, I need you. I need you. Can I come home? And we close the doors because you know why? Because this is a cycle that has happened so many years of what grandmother and what grandfather have done them, and they assume that's right. That is a toxic culture of way of life. To think that your children at 16, at 15 years old, 14, wherever, all the way up to 18, that they just got it all right. That you can just kick them out and think that they got it all together, and they never do. Most of the times when you see your young people go to college and they can't figure out what they want to be, they can't figure out what major, because their minds are not developed. And sometimes we push, and sometimes we push because we want them to be something that we want it to be. And we try to live through our children. And you cannot live through your children because you feel that you fail. You want your children to be like you, to be better. We all want our children to be better. But watch how you keep pushing, because you will keep pushing and you will keep pushing and you will push them in the hand of a demonic entity. Because no one is going to love your kid like you love your kid. No one is going to love your daughter, your son, like you love your son. And I want people to understand these things. It's like entertainment. You push your children into entertainment in Hollywood. And there's many stories of Hollywood, how many of these young men have been molested over up in this system. We talk about P. Diddy right now, who's getting questions about Usher, and many of these young men like Nick Cannon. And this become a cycle, a cycle, a cycle. And we see them smile, we see them entertain us, but we don't understand that the hurt and they have been taken advantage of. Cult leader don't just have to be a guy like Nature Boy. Cult leaders are out here. Cult leaders are out here on the internet. Cult leaders are out here in your entertainment. In your everyday life, there's a cult leader. They don't have to be some guy who go out in the jungle to be a cult leader. There are multiple cult leaders out here every day. And they don't give a damn about your child. They don't care about how young they are. They don't care about the mind being not being developed. And you guys got to understand these things. And I want people to understand that this young man, loyal, thought, and he looked and he idolized Nature Boy as a father figure. He would do anything for Nature Boy. The young man had praised a man. I watched the humiliations on how many times I've seen clips of Nature Boy forcing this young man to kiss his feet. I remember an episode when Nature Boy, Elijah Bishop, spit into his wine and made the young man drink his wine. There was so much abuse. And where was this young man's father? Where was this young man's mother? Because the young man was screaming for help. And once that young man relied on this Nature Boy guy, once he relied and Nature Boy got imprisonated, you got to understand he's still caught. And now he's caught in a mind that the soul is still taken. The soul is still taken, even though the entity is in jail. And it's going to take a long time for these young people to be able to overcome the trauma of what happened to them in carbonation. Just locking this man up is not enough. You got many of these young people are roaming and they still living their life. And you watch Velvet, she can't stay off the internet. And she's on her third baby, and she's dealing with Solo, who is mentally ill also. And many of these people who support carbonation, who support these cult leaders, they're mentally ill as well. So today I decided not to talk about my Aborigine content like I always do. I wanted to bring awareness because this means a lot to our young people. This can affect, you want to talk about building tribes. You can't build tribes without young people. And we got so many young people who are being used to these sex demons. And there's these sex demons don't give a damn what sex they are. So I want you guys to understand that my message to you is to talk to your children. My message to you is to not be so quick to throw their ass in the street because you want to live your fast life, because you want to be free. You're never free from your children. Your work is never done when you have children. Your work will never be done. You could be in your 60s, you could be in your 70s. You still have children, and you still are obligated to your children. And for people to think that once they are 18, 17 years old, just throw them to the military, that is not your responsibility. You are a poor piss parent. And that's what's wrong with our culture, is that we so quick to throw our children to the wolves. And the wolf is out there waiting. The wolf is out there waiting. The wolf don't love your children like you love your children. The wolf don't give a damn. So I'm if you for anybody that support me, please hit the like button. Also remember to share the video, because this is it's a message video. It's a message video. If I can give anything, I'm going to give you my wisdom, because I have 4 sons of my own, and I could not imagine. I couldn't imagine what some of these parents are going through, losing their children to cult. I should be the first person that my children need to lean on, not somebody in the street, not somebody online. Be aware what your children is doing online, because this young man, Loyal, ended up unalived. And now they're saying it's a homicide. And no telling what, because you got to remember, Nature Boy had followers all through the United States, even in other countries. Nature Boy, that cult leader, had so many followers. He could have. It was allegedly that the young man had took so much software, computers, to lock Nature Boy away for life. And I want people to understand this. Michael said. Michael said that's why I don't have children now. I'm looking for Cherokee Tulu type of women to be empress. And that's right, Michael. Because we got a lot of young people, who are being raised by immature parents who still don't want to be. They want to get their groove back. It's a lot of these younger parents still want to be in the club, and even the older ones. There's a lot of older ones trying to get their groove back. And that's men and women. It's not just the women. Because there's no balance without a man and a woman. There's no balance. It's not down the middle. And I want people to understand these things that you see. And I want y'all to take this young man's story and show this story to because you can actually Google. You can see his name in the description. You can actually see who he is. And you guys go out there and check him out. This young man was a part of a cult. He died. I think his death. He was 22 years old because he put himself among a cult because he believed in a man, and he found this man online. There were many of them, and there was a grown. Remember years ago, there was Mama Dia. Mama Dia. She was an older woman who was unalived, or that she passed away allegedly unalived. Allegedly, but she passed away in the hands of Nature Boy. This is the same man that told her to not take her medication, that she does not need her medication. So just because you're old does not mean that you're wise. Older people does not mean that they are mature. Just because you see adult does not mean that they are developed in their mind. And I want people to understand these things. There's so many men and women believe because of age that they are mature. There's a thing called an old fool. I know many old fools. That's why you see so many OGs out here that are not doing, is not setting an example for these young people. They set in a house. And I want people to understand that. Just because you're seasoned does not mean that you're qualified to be an elder. Just because you're seasoned does not mean that you're qualified to be an elder. Just being old does not make you wise. Just being old does not make you wise. They have prisoners get old. Prisoners that's in jail today, they get old. And there's many, many pimps, many criminals that are elderly people to this day. And I want people to understand this. Because my message to you, if you are not prepared to be a father or be a mother, don't have children. Shout out to Al Burrow. Don't have children. If you're not mentally there to deal with children, don't have them. Because you're turning them into the hands of people who don't give a damn about them. There's many nature boys out here. There's many men out here waiting to take your children. Many of them. It ain't just nature boy. There are many ecclesial bishops in the United States all across that is waiting to take the innocence of your young people. And I want people to understand these things that I'm talking about, the words that are coming out my mouth, that the fact that you don't understand that there are many R. Kellys. Y'all want to talk about R. Kelly. Y'all can sit here. R. Kelly is not, there were many R. Kellys when I was young. I'll never forget, I can barely date the girl in high school because there were many R. Kellys waiting. There were many 30-year-old men waiting for the young girls to get out of high school, waiting for them when the school bell is over, waiting to open the doors in their cutlass. There were many R. Kellys out there. Waiting for that 15-year-old, waiting for that 16-year-old, waiting for that 17-year-old. There were many. He's not the only one. There were many. The young guys couldn't even get the girl their age because there were many of them. If you don't love your children and you don't talk to your children, trust me, nobody else gonna give a damn about your children. Nobody, they don't care. They don't love your children the way you love your children. That's right. Y'all better understand that everybody don't love your children like you love your children. And like I said, rest in peace to Loyal. You were just loyal to the wrong person. You were too loyal and you gave your homage to a man. You paid homage to a man. You loved man before you loved yourself. You loved a man more than you loved yourself, young man. And there's so many of them just like him out here loving and praising man and giving their all to man. So I like to thank you guys. Shout out to El Burrow. This was a quick drive message, and my break is over with. But please share the video. Also hit the likes. It wasn't about Aborigine today. It was just about Nature Boy, the cult leader, and the young man who was unalived, who was burnt. They burned him in Toronto, Canada. It's now declared a murder. Okay, it's not even allegedly. Now it's declared a murder. So I'm just letting you know that he please hit the like button. I'm noticing a surge in subscribers. I want to thank all of the people that's actually. I haven't even been on YouTube. I've been on TikTok, and I'm just so ecstatic. The fact that I'm getting this big surge of subscribers. I would like to thank all of you guys for the support that you guys give Cheap Peanut Nola 504. I will be coming on YouTube. I guess every other day. I'm starting to come back to YouTube, starting to do more, come back home where I belong. Going to be doing more content on YouTube. So thank you guys for all the support. Remember that your child can be just like Loyal. Your child can be just like that young man. Talk to your children. Don't run your children out the house. Don't be so quick to make them rush them into life. Life is going to be here. Don't sit there and rush them out your house. Stop. Remember what it felt like when you were rushed out the house. And trust me, apartments and buying, everything is much more pricey than when it was when you were young. Shout out to Marcus. And I want people to understand that. I don't know where we have became as a nation of people when we just think that our children are a man and a woman at 17 years old, at 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. The brain is not developed. The brain is not developed. When you believe that you can just throw these young people out to the wasteland. Because ain't nobody gonna love your children like you do. And that's the problem. You have not been loving your children. Stop living through your children. Because your ass didn't go to college, you force yours to do. Everybody not college material. Teach them business. Everybody, your children don't want to go to the military. You force your children in the military. Because your ass want to go to the military. Stop doing things that you didn't want, that you wouldn't do. Stop making an excuse to put them out in the streets. I want people to understand this. Development of the mind. And then we expect young people to have it all, that they should have it together. You ain't had it together. Your ass ain't have it together, but you expect your children to have it all together. Some people are fast and some people are slow. Some people are fast and some people are slow to the finish. But we all gonna get to the finish line. That young man didn't have to pass away, but I'm sure his mother and his father, they wanted the best for their child. I'm sure they wanted the best for him. But the internet got a hold to him. Entities got a hold to him. You guys remember to hit the like button. Also share the video. Thank you for supporting me on the morning drive.